Hello and welcome to my tutorial on ghosting the first chapter of Thief 2014. I'm Ninja Dave and I'm going to be guiding you through getting the Ghost Playstyle Award for this chapter. If you watched my tutorial for the prologue, then you have a pretty good idea of what you're going to see here. This video is going to walk you through finding every piece of loot and picking every pocket in the chapter and doing it without getting detected or raising any suspicions, killing anyone, or taking anyone down or leaving any trace of your presence. We will not be accomplishing the tasks for the Opportunist and Predator awards, which are headshotting 4 threats and putting out 9 flames. In fact, we're not going to headshot anyone or put out any flames at all. We're going to leave things just the way we found them, except a little bit lighter on loot. This is what I call true ghosting, maximizing stealth and minimizing as much as possible any trace of your passing. Most of the tutorials I've seen on YouTube, even the ones that talk about ghosting, show the easiest ways to remain undetected, blowing out candles, taking down guards quickly and quietly, and so forth, and many of them show how to get the undetected achievement while also getting the rewards for Opportunist and Predator. It is possible, though, to do this chapter without doing any of that. It's difficult in spots, but not impossible, so that's what we're going to do here. I did a full introduction in the prologue video of what I was trying to do with this series, and if you have any trouble following anything, I recommend that you go back and watch that one. For this one though, I'm just going to take a moment to talk a little bit about screen notation. Every time I pick something up, either off the ground or out of someone's pocket, you'll see a running tally appear here in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. They'll come in 5 different colors: yellow for basic loot, red for collectibles, blue for documents, green for consumables, and orange for pickpockets. There are 60 pieces of basic loot in this chapter, and if you find all of them, you'll be rewarded with the Obsessive-Compulsive achievement or trophy, as well as a cash reward at the end of the level. The tally notation will show you how many you've found so far out of the total of 60 if you're following the video. There are 4 collectibles in the chapter, each belonging to a different collectible collection. This will show you how many you found in the chapter and how many total you found from each collection so far in the game. There are 6 documents in the chapter, 4 newspapers and 2 regular documents. When we find one, the tally will show you how many of that type we found in the chapter, how many total of both types in the chapter, and how many so far in the game out of the total of 208. There are 10 consumables to find and 12 pockets to pick. Those will be tallied just like loot with the number that you found out of the total number that there is to find. So let's get started with the first 2 collectibles here on this railing and above this save cabinet on top of this pipe. Just down below in this little alcove, you're going to find the first document and the first newspaper in the game. Then turn around and press your run trigger to head to the next roof, where you'll see me pause for just a second to demonstrate the use of focus, which is new in this chapter, and to get Garrett to speak that line about concentrating where I think that it belongs.
I feel like I can think and act faster than normal when I concentrate. What happened to me?
Focus will become very useful later in the game, but at this stage it's little more than a useful tool to highlight loot and other interactive parts of the world like doors and containers and claw holds. But if you follow this walkthrough, you won't need to go searching. The walkthrough is designed to make sure that you get everything that there is to get before you pass it by. This is important because the map has 3 places where once you pass them you cannot go back. This is the first one. Once you drop down from here, there's no going back, so make sure that you've got everything before you do. Back here you'll find your first pickpocket, and if you're not careful doing it, he will detect you. You want to be directly behind him before you go for his pouch. Also, you want to make sure that he's looking the other direction, to his right, down the alley before you go for the arrows next to the body. That done, turn quickly, hop this fence, and grab the 2 coins on the other side. As you can hear, the guards are involved in a little cutscene to your left. When they yell, don't worry, they're not yelling at you. If you're fast, you should be able to get into position right here behind this cover without being seen, just as the 2 guards come walking down the street. Here you'll want to wait for just a few seconds until the guard at the end of the street turns around and then creep slowly out behind the closer guard while staying in the other guard's profile, so that when the closer guard starts moving away from you, you can swoop across the light right behind both of them when they're both looking in opposite directions, to find this collectible, the first of the Serenity Circles. Then, without pausing to congratulate yourself, swoop immediately back across the street, aiming at that box to get through the light as fast as possible, and then swoop 2 more times to get back over the fence. Then climb it and swoop again to backtrack through this little alley so that you come up against this wall just as the guard turns around again. This puts you in the perfect place and the perfect time to pickpocket him twice without having to spend much time waiting for him to do his rounds. Once you've lightened his load, swoop back to this door and give the keyhole a peek before heading inside to find arrows and a coin purse. Once you have them, swoop back out again and close the door behind you before running for the shadows. Very probably, you'll hit the shadows just before the guard turns back your direction at the end of the alley and you won't get seen. Climbing up to the walkway just in front of you is how we're going to move on to the next section of the level, but before we do, don't forget to drop over the other side and grab these arrows. After this, there's just one more piece of loot in the first section, and then it's done. The next wall we go over is the second point of no return on the level, and there's no getting back up it from the other side. So once you grab this gear, we're going to do a loot check to make sure that we have everything before we move on. You should have 3 documents, 2 collectibles, and 7 out of 60 loot. We're going to stop like this 3 more times to do these loot checks in and around the jewelry store, but for now it's claw up and over the wall and on to the next section. Grab that knife, turn left, and head to the gate for the first lockpick of the chapter. This one isn't difficult, but don't worry, the first challenging one is coming very soon. You shouldn't have any trouble with this one, but even if you do, there's no one around to hear you if you miss a pin on it. Once you're through the gate, you'll see another good reason to close everything that you open. Twice on this level, there is loot hidden behind an open door. This time it's a candlestick. Once you have it, grab the food on the floor and then hold the X button to squeeze through this space here and then mash it to lift the beam so that you can go under it and through the rest of the crawl space. When you come out on the other side, there's another very short cutscene where the guards will conveniently fill you in on your next objective, Stonecutter Court's jewelry store.
Stonecutter's Court, closed for the night. No thoroughfare.
What are you looking at?
Price on that jeweled mask. Be enough to feed 100 squawking mouths for a year.
Don't you
The
go
vast majority of this next section is really easy, even on Master, because most of it is well outside of any guard's line of sight. So we're going to be moving through very quickly right up until the end when we come out in the little square on the other side. Just drop down here and swoop out to this crate to collect this coin. Don't worry, it's almost impossible to get noticed by the guards in these shadows. And turn back and pick this lock on this box here to collect an arrow. Again, you may hear the guards behind you, but don't worry about them seeing you. You'll have all the time that you need to get the lock open, but make sure that you don't miss a pin, because if they're at your end of the alley, that will alert them. Then you swoop back into the alley, and you don't even need to sneak at this point. You can stand up and run here without fear as you grab this coin and then turn around and jump up on these crates to get this arrow. Then drop down and claw up on this other side, and then you just use your running trigger here to automatically jump across the gap to find the gold piece in this bird's nest in the corner. Drop down again, and then we're into the back alley. As you run through, you may think that there's lots of places to hide stuff along here, but there's just nothing in it. And also, the non-guard citizens there won't bother you as you run past them. When you come to this door, open it and make sure that you close it again, because hidden behind it is a coin purse. There's also some food up here on this shelf behind you, and down on the ground you'll find the next newspaper. Back here, crouch down and swoop through this little crawl space, and when you come up on the other end, hold your running trigger down to climb out, and just keep it held down to run through this second alley on the opposite side of Stonecutter's Court towards this gate here behind the jewelry store. As you pick this lock, I don't think that you need to worry about missing any pins. I don't think that anybody is close enough to hear it. But it's always best to be careful just in case. Now, if you've done everything at the same speed that I did it, you should come up these stairs to see that the guard is facing you or just about to turn your direction. Don't go out there yet, because the other 2 guards that you can't see are facing him. So take a second to grab this knife, which is an easy piece of loot to forget, and then come over here and take cover behind this table so that you can wait in safety for all 3 guards to turn their backs. It takes just a moment. Once they're all looking away from you, you can come out from behind cover and then swoop out into the light behind him. Pickpocket his left pocket first so that when he turns back around, the right pocket is facing you and you can get that one, and then fade back into the shadows where you'll have to wait for just a few seconds for him to turn around one more time before you can swoop past him and back down the stairs. As you start down them, you can stand up without fear and walk all the way down and head back through the gate. Don't forget to close it behind you as you move on to the jewelry store. Now here we're going to do our next loot check. You want to make sure that you have 4 documents, 2 collectibles, and 14 out of 60 loot. This is not a point of no return. You can come back out from inside the jewelry store, but there's so much loot in there that if you don't make sure that you have everything that's outside before you go inside, it can be very confusing to find out what's missing if you get to the end of the chapter and realize that you did miss something. So it's best to check here. Once you've picked the lock, look through the keyhole, and then open the door and head on inside. Make sure that you close the door behind you, and then we're going to make a very quick sweep counterclockwise around the wall to get all of the easy stuff in one pass while Lygrove is looking the other direction. First grab these arrows, and then this pile of coins here on the shelf, and then this bracelet, and this cup, and this ink bottle, and if you do it quickly enough, you should have enough time to pickpocket both of his pockets before you have to fade back into the shadows. This is a good spot where he won't see you no matter which direction he's looking. Now, if you start moving, as soon as he turns, you'll have just enough time to search both of these drawers, but you'll have to swoop back out as soon as the second one is closed. He will repeat this pattern, going back and forth between the two desks, so be careful not to be in his path when he turns. When he turns around the next time, you're really only going to have time to do one drawer safely. Of course, you don't have to open all of these. The only one with loot is the bottom left drawer. But if you want to roleplay thoroughness, this is how you get to all 4 drawers without being seen. So just open one drawer this time. As you're about to see, he does not spend as much time at the second desk on this pass, and you definitely will not make it if you go for both remaining drawers and the letter on the desk at the same time. You'll need to wait here back in your safe spot back in the shadows for him to turn around a third time before you can risk coming back out into the light one last time to finish the job. As soon as he starts moving, grab the letter opener and the letter and open it in your inventory to find the combination of the safe hidden inside. There's a number beside each of the paragraphs in the letter hinting that the 3 dials of the safe are set to 7, 3, and 9. Then close out of the inventory screen to find the safe itself hidden behind the painting in this back corner of the room right next to that really inconveniently placed candle. Make no mistake, Lygrove will see you if he turns around in your direction while you're out in this light circle. The easiest way through this is to put the candle out. Well, I guess the easiest way to do it is to knock Lygrove out as soon as you come into the room, but you don't have to. You just have to open the safe a little bit at a time while he's facing the other direction. Also, when you interact with the safe, it seems to pull you up out of sneak, so make sure that you monitor whether you're standing or crouching each time you come back into the shadows to hide. You'll have to find what works best for you, and the most important thing is to remember to hide when you hear footsteps. But a good method to try is to find and flip the switch if you can on the first pass, and then set 1 or 2 of the dials on the second pass. Go back for a third to open the safe door, and then get the loot out on the 4th, something like that. Now, as you'll see, if you have it unlocked, there is just exactly enough time to swoop in, open it, pull the loot out, and close it again before Lygrove turns around. It cuts very close because with collectibles, when you first pick them up, Garrett really likes to take about 10 minutes to admire them before putting them in his pocket, and during that time you can't interact with anything like the safe door to close it again. Now, as I've said, this is the hard way to do it. I didn't put out the candles, I didn't knock him out, I didn't kill him, and I still managed to get everything down there despite the fact that they seem to have designed the room to make that as difficult as possible. Once you're finished down there, come up to this little ante-room, grab the 2 pieces of loot in the cabinet, and then there's 1 piece on each of the 2 sets of shelves beside it. And then move quickly to climb the cabinet behind you because it is possible to get spotted in here by the guard in the display room if he happens to be looking in your direction. Once you're up here, cross these rafters to the next room, but before you drop down, make sure that you grab this ink bottle here. This is one that I imagine almost anybody would miss if they didn't have somebody tell them that it's there. I certainly didn't find it on my own. I had to be told, but there it is. Once you have it, turn around and drop off the rafters right in place to start looting this desk, which has 2 pieces of loot, an ink bottle in the bottom right drawer and a pile of coins in the top left. As you may be aware, there is a guard in this room that hasn't appeared on the screen yet. He's right behind me as I start to loot this cabinet, sleeping in a chair. But don't worry, as long as you stay crouched, he will stay asleep. He'll wake up and alert if you actually run into him, but if you leave him be, he'll let you grab this cup right under his nose. Then come around behind him and grab the 2 pieces of loot on this set of shelves, and then you come to what is, so far, the hardest lock in the game by far. Before we tackle it, let's do another loot check. You should have 5 documents, 3 collectibles, and 30 out of 60 loot items. Also, you may want to drop a manual save here because this is a very easy lock to screw up. The pins are very small and hard to hit, and there are 5 of them, and if you miss a pin, the guard in the chair will alert immediately and probably stab the sword into your chest area. And the next room, too, has plenty of places to screw up, so it really can't hurt to save your progress at this point. As you can see, you really can't overestimate how difficult it is to get through this lock without slipping a pin accidentally and waking up the guard. But it looks like that's got it. Once you have it unlocked, you can open it up, and inside you'll find your next collectible. This is one of the mortal coils, the first of 6, and the third collectible of the level. There's just one left, and it's in the next room with more than half of the remaining loot in this chapter. Once you've stowed your haul, close the safe door, and then head around the corner into the display room. This room is very difficult, and if you don't take the guard out, it's very easy to get caught, but it is possible to get through it, and doing it is just sort of the art of staying behind him as he walks around in predictable circles. As you can see, I had enough time here to go through these first 3 drawers and to grab these 2 pieces of loot off the shelf, but it really depends on where he is in his rounds as you come around the corner into the room for the first time. Whatever you don't get now, you can come back for, but eventually he's going to start walking towards you, and you'll have to wait for him to pass by. Then sneak out and pickpocket him quickly, and you'll probably have a second to grab the obvious coin on the floor before getting back into position behind him to set yourself up to go through the drawers as soon as he starts walking away. First, loot these 3 in this chest against this wall, and if you're quick in doing it, you should have enough time to go from there to the 3 window drawers immediately to your left, and loot all 3 of those before the guard comes around on the other side of the room to where he can see you out in the light here trying to steal what he's being paid to protect. Then wait here in the shadows for him to make this turn, and when he stops to stare at the wall, I find that if you want to get these next 3 in a single pass, you need to do the first one, and then skip the second one, and do the third one before coming back to the middle one, because the middle one has a collectible in it, and Garrett will again stand there staring at it well long enough to keep you from opening the third drawer if you save that one for last. And even then, you want to pick this lock as fast as you can because time is limited, and if you feel like you don't have enough time, don't be afraid to give up and wait until the next pass. Remember that you're out in the light the whole time that you're over there, so he can see you all the way from across the room as soon as he turns around. When he does, swoop through the light and go through these drawers behind the cash register counter, but don't try to do the cash register itself yet. You probably don't have enough time to pick the lock. Instead, come back to the shadows here and wait for just another moment, and then as soon as he starts walking, you have a clear shot to swoop through the light and get to these 3 drawers in this next chest. Once you finish with them, you should have just enough time to get this jewel case open and loot it. Remember that these take a long time each because each one has to open all the way and you have to grab 2 things inside, and then it has to close all the way before he sees it, because if he sees it open, you're caught. So you do not have time to do both of them in one pass. So instead, come back to the cash register and go ahead and pick the lock now. And when you get it open, loot the pile of coins inside. And that will leave you with just one thing to do, unless you didn't manage to get through those first 3 drawers and to pickpocket him and to get the things off of the shelf at the beginning like I did. If you didn't, now is a good time to do that, and of course anytime that he's standing over here staring at the wall like this, it's a good time to pickpocket him if you haven't already. But if you've followed along so far, then all you have left is that middle jewel case on the center island. As soon as he walks past it, you can come back over here, and once again, takes a little while, but you get the thing open, grab both of the pieces of loot, and close it again. And that, finally, is everything for this room. As you leave, head back through the anteroom, and then you can swoop up both flights of stairs, but make sure that you don't swoop again once you get to the top. You'll see why in just a second. Once you're up there, do regular sneaking and grab this cup, and though you can't see it, there's some food there that you can grab through the table before you head around here to grab this second cup off of the round table. Then head around the table to avoid tempting fate and disturbing that guard, and into the sitting room. And if you're quick, you have enough time to grab this cup before Lady Lygrove comes back into the room. You can also wait until she sits down. It doesn't matter which you do as long as you don't go for it right as she's coming into the room and looking at you. So make sure that you're in these shadows as you loot this desk of some coins and a letter opener, and then you want to grab one last thing from this credenza right here before heading out into the hallway again. In the left-hand drawer, there's another pile of coins. Now, as you come around this corner, there is a bird cage. This is why I told you not to swoop on this level. That bird will alert at any sudden movement or noise, so you want to make sure that you're very careful as you search those drawers. Then turn around and look through the keyhole of the bedroom, and then open the door to go inside, and inside you'll find 2 more pieces of loot, a cup on top of the dresser, and a pair of earrings in the left-hand drawer. Once you have them, do not forget to turn around and look at the newspaper on the bed. Once the room is clear, creep back out, remembering the bird, and close the door behind you before you turn to your left to head down the hall towards the 2 remaining items. There's one in each room.
No coming back.
In this one, you can check this drawer if you want to, but there's nothing in it. On top of the sink, you'll find a hairbrush. And then, as you come into the other side of the sitting room, creep slowly and peek around the corner to make sure that she's still sewing. I don't think she ever gets up, but better safe than sorry. Grab the cup, and then we're going to do our last loot check before we leave the jewelry shop. You want to make sure that you have 6 documents, 5 collectibles, and 60 out of 60 loot, and it should say that the loot all items task is completed. Make sure you do that here, because once you go through this window, you cannot come back. Here in the corner on the bench, you'll find the last document. It should have 4 out of 4 newspapers now and 7 out of 208 documents. And then it's through this window and into a completely empty apartment. Now we're just passing through here and into the last alley on the other side that leads to the clock tower where Chapter 2 begins. So crouch down and check the keyhole. You can't see much, but it's enough to know that there's no one there. And then head through the door and close it behind you before turning to your left and jumping very carefully over this crate. If you stay right behind the closer guard, neither of them can see you, but if you're just a little bit off as you try to pick his pocket, you will get noticed here. It's very easy to get caught. Once you're finished, back across the crate and head down this alley. And while you're moving, pay attention to where that shadow on the wall is. Until it starts moving, that guard is looking right at where you'll come out into the light. So wait until he's walking away and then follow him to this little hiding place and grab some cover to watch the cutscene at the end of the alley. The last 2 things that you need to do here are pickpocketing each of the 2 guards that you can see talking to the woman in the window. It is definitely possible to do one of them during this little scene while they're facing away from you. I've never gotten both of them before they start moving, and it's just not worth it to try because you have plenty of time to get both of them as they head down the last alley lighting the torches, and it's really easy to get caught by them if you try to do it while they're standing still. Even if you wait for them to start moving, they are still by no means easy. I always want to make sure that I go for the guy on the left first because it's easy to get noticed by either of them if you go for the guy on the right before they start walking again to move on from this light down the alley toward the next one. When they start moving though, you can get the second guy pretty easily. You just have to take it very slow and be careful and make sure that you've got it before you go for it. And that is it. All that remains is to run for the clock tower. There are 2 more guards down at the other end of the alley, but they have no loot. So as soon as these 2 guards pass this pipe, you can claw up and safely pass the other 2 by up on these ledges and bridges up here without any fear of missing anything. And in fact, without any fear of anything at all, as long as you watch your footwork and make sure that you're careful not to fall right in their laps. As you go across this last plank, you just run across the roof here, and as you try to go up on the last wall, you get a blackout and lose control of the character for a final very short cutscene as Garrett comes over the wall and sees his beloved clock tower lair. And this is where you'll get your rewards screen. As you can see, the circle is completely purple. It would look like a pie with wedges of the other 2 colors if I had done any of the tasks for Opportunist or Predator, like blowing out candles or dousing torches or shooting people in the face. So purple was what we were shooting for. Below that are the 2 challenges that I did complete: Remain Undetected and Lift All Loot Items, and the cash rewards for those. And then over on the right hand side you can see the final statistics. 20 minutes and 26 seconds playing time. I found all 4 of 4 collectibles. Total stolen in gold is 616. Now that appears to be a hard number. That does not appear to be any randomness in it. If you get all of the loot, that should be the number that you have as well. Loot found is, of course, 60 out of 60. 12 pockets picked and 7 locks picked. There is an 8th, the front door of the jewelry shop, but there was no reason to unlock it because we didn't go in that way. And so leaving it locked was leaving fewer traces of our presence, so I did not unlock it just for the sake of doing it. And the rest should always be zeros. No knockouts performed, no suspicions raised, no times detected, and no threats killed. So that's it. That's the master difficulty tutorial for ghosting the first chapter. I hope that you enjoyed it or at least found it instructive. If you learned anything or if you have any suggestions, please drop me a comment. And without further ado, I'm Ninja Dave. Thanks for watching. Happy thieving.